So welcome to this webinar. We have Prime Focus Technologies, as well as Joe is here from Hearst, and we're going to do a case study as well. What Joe's been working on. Certainly, AI is a very important aspect of what's happening within media and entertainment. And our latest research that we conducted around the what would normally have been the IBC timeframe this year, just a couple of months back, showed that about 20% of media and entertainment companies already have AI deployed. And there's about 50% of companies that said likely. And surprisingly enough, there's about 30% that said unlikely. So when we kind of looked at that a little bit more detail, about 45% of those thought it was a high cost of deployment. So, and I think it's maybe we can dispel some of those facts when we get into chatting about this. But 38% said they wanted to use AI to manage their workflows. And that's an excellent aspect to really be looking at AI on this. So with that, I'm going to introduce the people we have on the webinar today. We have Joe Adalia, and Joe is Director of Technology Projects at Hearst Television. I remember being back in his television station probably 10 plus years ago. And Joe showed me a really cool project he put on all his Ethernet. So he sniffed any video coming in. He immediately recorded it as a backup just to be sure it didn't get lost in the night. And, when you look at that, that was really the early way of doing machine learning. Joe?
Yeah, we've always had some great ideas. I'm fortunate enough to have an excellent team with me. And we come up with some ideas and we try to see what works. It's all about enabling the workflow and helping our users. We're fortunate to have the best team in the business, so we are very productive on things like AI and ML. We've got a number of projects going on now within the company, and some that I particularly really enjoy are the ones that support us gaining metadata around the given video assets and any kind of media assets. So that's kind of exciting for me, because in years past, as we captured that video, it would be essentially orphaned until a human associated it with something. And now with the they call it advent of AI, it's been around for many years, but it's really the machine learning part of it that you attach to it that really it starts to move us forward. And it's exciting, it's from a guy who's preached metadata for I don't know how many years to now be able to do it in an automated way to populate metadata is a great thing and a true enablement to our team. So
yes, really certainly great. The auto population is great, and we've both been on the metadata kick for a long time. It's interesting how everybody says it's the new oil, but it's certainly been around for a while. I'm going to introduce Morelli here. He's Vice President of AI ML products at Prime Focus Technologies. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I actually, been running this AML products for the last couple of years in Prime Focus. Before that, I used to be an entrepreneur, and we were doing a direct-to-consumer media entertainment solution, which had AI way back in 2015. I started with AI quite early. We got acquired by Prime Focus 3 years back. So since then, it's been a very interesting ride. So we've been having a lot of customer requests. We've been trying to innovate all the time. Most often, technology is trying to play catch up with the needs of the industry, particularly the M&E industry being a very, very perfectionist industry, right? It's a very interesting day. We look forward to every day, wake up every morning, looking forward to the day ahead.
Well, that's great. Well, certainly AI has actually become even more important as people are scouring through content and things like that. So Joe, let's just talk about some of the critical workflow challenges you had and how AI helped.
Yeah, so to be, in a moment, I'll be more specific, but just generally speaking, we have AI/ML projects that affect all aspects of basically the television group. We deploy things like RPA, and we do specific machine learning around speech to text and trying to find a number of metadata points for like auto trimming and things like that. And in the particular use case that we had that I really would like to talk a moment about is relates to augmenting manpower. We had a tremendous political season, like most television groups did, and a large amount of content coming in. And we really wanted to come up with a system that could better handle it and enable our team in the traffic. We have a centralized traffic department, has centralized copy and commercial handling, and the team is wonderful, but there's a lot of content coming in, and we wanted to figure out a way that we could support them better. So one of the ideas that we came up with is that as commercials come into our group, essentially it's all centralized, how can we limit or reduce the amount of touch points on those physical assets? So the idea is that, well, if a clip comes in from an advertiser, can we automatically trim the top and tail off of that and create, just the video clip itself? And, one might say, oh, well, that's kind of easy. It's black detection. It might be simple. It's not as simple as you think, because every single one of them is different. And that's where the machine and the machine learning comes in, is it has to understand what, believe it, many still use color bars. And you have a slate that could be multiple colors. Some could be animated. And then, yes, you have black, but does the black have stray audio under it? Things like that have to be determined, and the machine has to learn. So we embarked on the project to really see where we could go. We really were kind of unsure because of the dynamic nature of the source content. But here we fast forward down 6 to 8 months down the road, and we've been very successful with this. We were able to take in any kind of short form content and have it move through the system. And by the time it makes it for the final air copy to be distributed to the play to air servers, it is completely trimmed to frame accurate, and that's a great accomplishment. Certainly given the amount of content that we did move in, amount of spots that we did move this past quarter, this was a big enablement for us. And I think something else to think about is that you have to go through this and validate as well. And as you validate the metadata against the video and whatnot, that provides information or instructional data that you can feed back into the machine. And we really had a minimal amount of touch points from our end on that. And we were very pleased with that point, because there's some machine learning engines that go on and they're continuously requiring human feedback to train and to have that engine learn. And in this case, it was a bit of a jump start, and then the machine started learning on its own, which is great. And that's a testament to the Prime Focus team and all the data scientists behind them that really got this done for us. So we're very pleased at the moment. And I say at the moment because we always have a next step. It's anyone who knows me is that I don't sit still long. And the next idea is to move into long form. And how do we treat long form? And then beyond that, we have tons of content that needs metadata and needs to be segmented, et cetera. I think we're all familiar with those tasks at hand. But it's been a good ride so far. We're really pleased. So.
It's really cool that you started talking about top and tail. I was doing a panel with a UK broadcaster maybe a year plus ago, and it was like top and tail is just crazy. It just drives us out of the wall. Yeah. It's just an absolute a nightmare as far as that goes. So I'll pass it over to Morella here.
Right. So I'll just give you an analysis of what is the problem that we were trying to solve. Like Joe mentioned, we needed seamless discovery of the segments in the content, the blacks, the color bars, the slates. And the need was that the detection had to be accurate as well as frame accurate, right? If you have to automate that workflow, you had to get to frame accuracy, and it had to detect the segments accurately every time. And it had to be faster than a human, in terms of performance. And it had to be reliable every time. Otherwise, you cannot automate the workflow. And the moment you have a hybrid workflow, it may not necessarily be the most efficient one in this use case. So what we tried to do was we built AI models that were trained to recognize blacks, color bars, and slates and content segments. And each one of those models, they had to be accurate. They support lots of vagaries in the type of content. If I were to give you a couple of examples, right? So there are blacks that come with noise. There are vertical time codes, and they're never pure blacks. Every black is different. Then you have creative blacks in the content that has to be ignored. And then you have color bars from syndicated content and spots that come in lots of varieties, right? You cannot have the machine trained for one type of color bars. And then slates are not standardized in it as well. And sometimes you can actually have content with text, which should not be mistaken for a slate. So lots of complexities involved in detecting this. So we had to have some thresholds that were configured to handle these kind of vagaries based on AI and associated computer vision technologies. A lot of text and language processing as well to read and understand the slate to make sure that it is what we are telling you as a slate is actually a slate. Right? So a combination of these was put together. So we built a set of engines that will process content in real time as and when it comes. Also performs faster than a human and detects it reliably every time and frame accurately. Right. So that was the solution as part of our product called the Clear Vision Cloud. We call it the segmentation solution in Clear Vision Cloud that we deliver to Hearst. And most importantly, we have this patented technology called machine wisdom that is applied to make this frame accurate, to make them handle the vagaries and make sure that it is accurate every time. And after the detection was done, we had to deal with scaling and reliability. And when it comes to scaling and reliability, right, you have content that comes in bursts sometimes, and sometimes at various different times of the day. And the cost has to be well managed as well to make sure that you don't have a huge bill at the end of the month, right? So the cost of cloud machines had to be managed to make sure that the solution delivers on the cost benefits as well. So what we did was we Dockerized all these components and deployed them using Kubernetes on cloud. It's a complete on cloud solution, right? The engines can handle burst very well. They replicate and scale out whenever content comes in, and then scale back in whenever the burst is over. So you have minimum latency. You can deliver on high SLAs. At the same time, the cost is very well controlled. And then in terms of reliability, if one of these jobs fail for whatever reason, right, another pod comes up and then picks up and completes it. So it's very, very reliable. And we also put together a full high availability and geo redundancy so that the operation is 24/7. And even if a data center goes down, then another geography comes up, picks it up, and then completes almost seamlessly.
And this Clear Vision Cloud solution is deployed on AWS Cloud. So we host this on AWS, and the AI engines are hosted in Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS of AWS. So it gives us the capability to burst on need, to scale up and scale down as and when required at optimal cost. And should there be any of these availability zones, if they go down, then the other one will pick up and run from there. So we can provide high availability solution like we just explained with redundancy. And so a very reliable solution and also a cost-effective solution. So that's where we use the power of AWS EKS. So all of our AI models are deployed on EKS. We are hosted on AWS Cloud, and the storage on AWS S3.
And the differentiation between the solution that we have put in place for Hearst to a typical out-of-the-box solution that's available in the marketplace. The first one is that we are the most accurate solution in the marketplace today. Quite often we are at 100% detection accuracy and 100% frame accuracy, right? We handle the noise and the varieties in the content very well as a wide variety of segments are covered, right, compared to the typical color blacks and color bars and slates. many more segments that can be identified using the Vision Cloud platform. And most importantly, like Joe mentioned, right, it's customizable for every customer's specific content. So, this is customized for Hearst content, and it can be done very, very easily. So we had a very, very small lead time before we were live. And it's a self-learning platform. So as and when we start processing content, it learns without any human intervention. So that's the solution that we delivered to Hearst, and we're very happy that Joe is pleased with how it's working so far.
Yeah, that's a great overview, Morelli. So let's get back to Joe, and let's just talk. You talk generally about since we're talking about a case study here, let's just get into the business benefits right at the get go.
Yeah. So the idea here is how do we help our staff? How do we help the team? And we took a hard look at many different areas of the workflow, not just commercial workflow, but all of it. And we deployed, a number of different types of AI ML solutions, right? As I mentioned, even RPA type solutions to help the team. This particular one was big because it really reduced the amount of touch points around the video, and it even makes it to the point where there's less tools involved, and I think that's important as well. We still possess a final checkpoint at our stations because we still have master control operators locally, so we still check everything for a final QA, as we say, for all of our content. But there's been significant gains upstream, and the idea here was how do we take a larger load, bring it through with the same amount of staff, and also how do we do it faster? And that's a big item for us. How can we take whether it's a local spot, which is primarily what we're talking about here, that could be from anyone at any length or what are the systems that we can use to get it faster to air? And an auto trim is a big step in that, right? There's also auto QC and things like that we already have in place for years. So that you marry that together, and you've got a lot of automation that really helps. And then the other piece is the essence data is already prepared and already in the system, so to speak. And the way we deploy the Prime Focus tool, media asset management called Clear, is it actually writes directly to our automation databases. So that metadata that's garnered from the commercials is then pushed into the all the way downstream into the automation playout database. So it's very valuable metadata that's gained. It gives you your starter message, and all those kind of things that automation needs is all completely automated, and there's no real human touch involved other than, like I said, a final QA. The other interesting thing that is a next step or a down the road piece is we've looked at using the natural language of OCR from the slate and building more metadata from the slate information itself. So that's a little bit tricky because not all of it is the same, and you have to really understand that, is this a description or is this just a note, or is this an ISCI code, or just, who knows what this, or add ID, and who knows what this is. So there's a lot of learning involved to really understand, because every slate is different. So there's a lot of learning, but it is definitely a next step to help with this world. And again, this is for spots that would come from a local provider who wouldn't have a big mechanism behind them that's distributing large amounts of national spot. These are more like a local advertiser for car dealers, lawyers, etc., that are just doing volume spots, and they're pushing them to us as local advertisers. And again, it reduces the touch point, increases the quality control, and gets it to air faster. And I think that was really what we're really set out to do, and what I'd say that we achieved, which is great. It's just such an important thing to have metadata with video clips. I mean, it's just I call them orphan video files if it doesn't have metadata, right? And there's a lot of debate on whether that's right or wrong, but that's the way I look at it, right? And so if we can put more metadata into the database, or even just into a holding point for every video clip, those video clips become smarter and we can do more with them. I call this process enabled media. All right, this is just a name I made up, and many of I can say this really. There's many people who have come to our Hearst-led enabled media symposiums. We've done about a half a dozen of them. We started with a small amount of people, maybe 18. We're invited, 35 show up. One of those, we invite the same 35 in another meeting, and 50, 60 show up, and to the point where it scaled to almost 200 people in one that we had in New York, which was very exciting to see the industry just really rallying around the need for metadata, and AIML being one of those providers, the ability to get that metadata harvested and smarten up this media so we can automate it, we can do more with it. And it's been a very exciting thing. Of course, the way we sit today in COVID, we haven't been able to do another enabled media symposium, but I hope when the fog lifts, I hope that we'll be able to get back and do another one and go deeper with all the people involved. So.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there about local advertisers. Obviously that's an extremely important part of the revenue, but also just like you said, you have no idea what you're going to get from them and what shape it's going to be in. I'm sure you struggle with the quality to begin with, much less the metadata as far as that goes. So your case was use case there was really cool, certainly of the Clear Vision toolkit. And Morelli, what are some of the other use cases?
So what we run through right now is short form segmentation, but I think we're investing quite a bit into R&D in long form segmentation. So today, our AI engines regularly process long form content in real time. Right? They identify the most comprehensive set of segments automatically. It's identified by human operators. So it can identify recaps, precaps, different types of slates, bumpers, breaks, montages, product placements, and many more such segments, right? And the beauty is that they automatically learn. So if the engines don't know how to identify a certain signature, then the next time a human QC happens, silently the learning happens, and the same episode comes up the next day, then you have AI identifying it automatically. So the human QC is very pleasantly surprised. And this ensures that there is continuous reducing costs and cycle time efficiencies. So in our assessment, the way physical segmentation of content is going on, I think doing that without AI will soon be a thing of the past. There's no need for this to be a complete human process. Most likely AI will get front loaded in most of these processes. And a few more things that are coming up in physical segmentation and physical recognition of content. So we're building texted and textless masters for global distribution of masters as per specs. So automatic segmentation helps in doing that, build packages out of it. We're now doing content QC against various promo versions before they go live on air, completely automated. We handle thousands of videos every month in this workflow. Then we compare masters, right, and do DI validations, and then there's reconfirming of masters from the dailies, right? So what made from the dailies to the final cut. So those are automatically identified by AI, and all of these are identified using the physical elements of the content. So these are some of these further areas of research and AI deployment that is happening as we speak.
Thanks, Morelli. Certainly, the toolkit does a lot of different stuff, which is great. And Joe, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a true industry enablement to get to find and harvest the metadata and get it as far upstream in the process as possible. And by having tool sets like this all over the industry, as we we're kind of inferring here, is that it's not just downstream at final commercial distribution, that it can be used on masters or promo creation and whatnot. That metadata is just valuable all the way through the chain, and it's kind of exciting to me. And I love the fact that that Prime is leading this this idea here and this notion, and showing how it can be done, which is great. And I think that just helps. So when if you look at masters as they move through distribution, to have robust metadata with them is great. The other part of this that we really didn't drill down into is that there's other pieces of metadata that you can couple with it. Yeah, we're talking about a specific use case here of topping and tailing, but there's closed captioning tracks. There, you can create your own from speech to text. And I think the key here is that first is no single AI engine is going to do everything that you want it to do. So you've got to use basically all of the above and then anything out there, and pick the best one for the task at hand. And all of the large cloud players now all have great tools, but some of them might be better for a particular task at hand. And that's something that I think you have to understand. You have to have an engine that can an ML engine that can really say, okay, well, this is the better side, the better approach, or the more accurate approach. And I think that's key going forward. I think the other thing that we have to realize too is, in the vendor space, is that not one vendor can do it all, right? And we love to think that maybe we could just do one-stop shopping, but really, it's an ecosystem. And as Prime Focus and Clear hold the metadata, they need to push that downstream to the next system, whether it's Imagine or Grass Valley or whomever, Florical, you pick it. All those systems have to play in the ecosystem and not only understand that this is AI generated metadata, but then what to do with it. And I think that's a really important takeaway for everyone, is to understand that we're not going to find this as a single source. It's not, and I think it's better for the industry that it isn't, right? Is that it is as open as possible, and that we exchange this information in open schemas, or at least publish APIs. There's no reason to have a true standards per se, as much as I am a standards person. I think it's mainly that it's published. Here's my API, you can come and get it. And I think that's an important thing to look at going forward, and certainly one that cause that we are champion. Every time that we tap into a system and we're deploying anything related to AI, ML, it's really comes down to databases and whatnot, but it's really true, API integration. That's really at the heart of all of this, and what makes all this work. And it's an exciting time, to finally see how things can get glued together, and we can move this metadata from A to Z without complication and without losing the metadata or having to recreate it. And AI ML is doing that for us in our industry, and that's outstanding. Some pretty cool things on the horizon too, with real time and live. That's exciting. That can enable productions and live production and whatnot. It's really great stuff.
Well, Joe, I got a great question that's just come in here. Let me read it here. This looks for you. So, before deploying the solution, what was your confidence in AI delivering complete automation within a workflow?
My confidence on having a working system was high, very high. And that's because we approached this as bite-sized chunks, right? We didn't go in and say, we're going to turn the keys over, we're going to do everything. What we said was that we're going to look at this, we're going to take a bite at a time. And that's proven to be a successful plan, because we know what the expectations are of each bite, and as we move along, and it's worked well as we added the layers on top of layers. Now we have a very complete foundation, and that was something that, again, that we built, piece by brick, you might say. So
yeah, and doing it bite by bite is good. So this is obviously this deals into the next question here. They're talking about you almost answered it. It says, has this deployment encouraged you to employ more AI in the future, and in a variety of different workflows? So I guess really the question is, some other workflows.
Yeah, I think so. We already have projects underway that are doing things like auto clipping of newscasts and news content. And that's an internal project that we're doing, and it's proven to be successful. There's things like automated closed captioning, right? That I think everybody is dabbling into. But what's cool about automated closed captioning is that all of a sudden now you have metadata that goes with everything that's accurate, more accurate than even the human closed captioning. So there's a lot of cool projects that happen downstream, but the most important thing is that it is, you got to look at it like it's metadata, right? Look at it like it's an important part of the asset, and we're gonna grab this, we're gonna harvest this, we're gonna keep it with the asset, and then we'll be able to do more with it. And that's really been our philosophy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And here's a good question. So I'll ask Morelli this. Basically, it's about, I'll just summarize it here. Can you embark on creating a completely automated solution with 100% accuracy?
Yeah, there are certain workflows where you can achieve 100% accuracy, right? Specific workflows like the ones that we just spoke about, you can achieve 100% accuracy. And there are workflows where 100% accuracy is not ideal. In which case you will have AI front loaded, and then you have a human and machine hybrid workflow, which will ensure that the outcome is still realized effectively.
Great. So another question coming in here is, what other types of AI deployments have you done for customers?
Yeah. So we've done this. We've spoken about short form and long form segmentation. We've been doing a lot of these deep metadata extraction, right? Automating the creation of promos, right, for our customers. We've been doing what we call video comparators, building global masters using comparators. We've been identifying contextual advertisement slots, right, for our customers. There are places where we are automating promo QC, right, completely with AI. So yeah, and of course speech to text, right? We have a large content localization business inside the company, and quite a lot of speech to text can go through AI, create automatic transcripts and captions, and then have a human complete it. These are some of the use cases that we are deploying AI in.
All right, and we got time for one more question here. So how is the adoption? Oh, this is a good COVID question here. How has the adoption of AI matured over the last 3 quarters, I guess, since COVID's come on board there? And has it gotten accelerated because of the circumstances? So either one of you can jump in on that one, or both.
Joe first.
Okay. I think from our perspective is that, yeah, we definitely moved a little faster into our AI world, although we've had a commitment to AI for at least 2.5 years, maybe going on 3 now, as a corporation, as Hearst Corporation, and certainly in our division. So we've had a lot of projects under the hood, so to speak, or behind the curtain that we've been working on. I'd have to say that, yeah, some of them were pushed into the forefront a bit faster this year because of manpower and staffing, and you can't get people in the right places. And I just have to say that at the same time, commend our team. Our people have just done a wonderful job with dealing with COVID and working from home and all of these changes. And where we as the technologists can help them, we're happy to do it. And I think AI has certainly done that for us. So.
Really?
Yeah, COVID in a sense has broken inertia, is what I would say. So people are much more open now. People are okay to send content onto the cloud to process it, right? So yeah, what looked like green shoots 2-3 quarters back now looks like a clear trend, right? So we have. I think it's accelerated the deployment of AI quite significantly for us, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, we're just about out of time here, so I certainly appreciate the chat there. And Joe, it was really good to hear the case study as to how you're using it and continuing to use it. And Morelli, I think that the toolkit's certainly good. Anybody else wants to learn a little bit more about what's going on, you can go over to www.primefocustechnologies.com/vision_cloud, or certainly just info@primefocustechnology.com. Send an email over, and I'm sure they'll get together. So thanks again. There's absolutely no question in my mind AI is going to be taking off. We've got to figure out how to automate workflows more and more, because particularly in this world now, we're getting content from all over the place, Joe, like you said, and you never know what the quality is going to be like, and you've got to have the metadata. Thanks again.
That's right. Our pleasure.